Good morning, it's Patrick here for your daily dose of complete health. And I wanted to talk about something that I see way too much in my office, especially this year more than anything, and that is stress. And more importantly, being a bit more specific about that, emotional stresses and how it's probably linked with some of the problems that you might be having with your health. Now, this is something that's been completely disregarded for years as being a cause of dysfunction or a cause of disease, when really it should be one of the primary things that should be considered with every single client, patient, whatever. And that is, like I say, emotional stress. Now, what do I mean by emotional stress? Well, emotional stress can come in a multitude of different forms. It can come in stuff like arguments, it can come in work stress, it can come in financial stress. And really, about 1 in 5 will find that at some point throughout any year will come to a point where they feel so overwhelmed that they cannot cope. And statistics suggest this. And really, if that is the case of you're at a point where you just don't know what to do with yourself because you're that stressed, is it safe to say that that is probably having a physical effect on your body? Now, a lot of people don't clue emotional stress together with a sense of change in their physical well-being. But let me just explain to you why that is the case. Now, our brains are wired to sense what's going on in the environment, whether it is a safe or unsafe environment. So if all of a sudden we put ourselves into a detrimental position, e.g. a lion walks through the door. Now, I know this is a very unlikely scenario, but I can tell you, if that lion came through your front door of your house, you would all of a sudden start to panic. Why? Because it's in your body's best interest to panic. Why? Because it's looking for a route of survival. However, in survival mode, we are not necessarily looking at keeping our body recovering. So, if you're constantly running away from a lion or a tiger or a predator, eventually your body will pack in and say enough is enough, and the lion will catch and eat you if you don't get away first. Now, as we get away and the stress levels come back down, our brain is wired to then go back into another form, which is rest mode, which is when our tissues and our hormones can all recover from that stress that we've just had. However, in the 21st century, what we tend to find is that though we're not being chased by lions and tigers, we are finding ourselves being exposed to constant stresses all of the time. Arguments, financial stresses, your boss getting on your back at work, having an argument with a friend, traffic, etc., 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 waiting too long in the queue for Costa coffee. All of these things will create a heightened state of arousal in your brain. Now, if you really think about it, when the last time you felt stressed, what happened to your heart rate? What happened to your breathing rate? What happened to your muscle tension? All of these things are starting to drive up through the roof. Why? Because they're getting prepared to either fight or escape from a form of danger, which in the case of a form of danger is helpful. But in every other case, it is not. Now, our body is designed to only stay stuck in this state for around 20% of the time as a maximum. And it's there for survival. So when we use it as a constant use for trying to get through our daily life, is it surprised that people start to feel overwhelmed? Now, if you think about it, if your heart is constantly beating at excessive levels, what's going to start to happen? Well, things like our blood pressure can start to rise. Stuff like cardiac arrest can start to occur. Our clotting and our other factors within our blood will start to rise up because they're getting ready for any physical damage in the body. But when there is no physical damage sustained, this is not helpful for our body. It actually causes more problems. Same again with our breathing rate. If it's constantly risen, same again with our hormones. If it's constantly risen, they are going to then become easier to trigger again in the future. We do not necessarily need to be prepared for our body to sustain damage if no damage is going to occur. And I hope that makes sense. So why is it so important that we move away from things, or we start to try and control the levels of stress that we have going on in our life? Well, One, it can start to really seriously help people with physical problems. So one of the most common pain syndromes that most people have heard of at some point in their life is fibromyalgia. Now, fibromyalgia is a condition that we don't necessarily understand completely, but one thing that I found in common with most of my fibromyalgia patients is that there is some sort of physical or domestic violence that they have had in the past. And what has that got to do with their current problem? Well, their brain has got stuck in this heightened state of arousal, and it starts to create physical pain when there is no physical damage there, or very little physical damage there. So the brain starts to heighten up the signals. Now, the same is true for people that do not have fibromyalgia, but they are feeling problems start to gradually come on. That body is under distress, and it will start to feel physical symptoms over time. And not only can they start to be physical pains, they can start to be systemic problems as well. So stuff like your heart problems, your lung problems, etc. So like I said, there are some things that you can really easily do. Make sure you're getting adequate levels of sleep. Make sure you're doing stuff for yourself. Make sure you're doing things that will bring your heightened states of arousal down. Breathing techniques, meditation, stretching, exercise, yoga. There are hundreds of different things, but there has to be the thing that fits for you, that makes you feel calm and relaxed, so your body can come away from that sympathetic stress state and it can come back to that parasympathetic rest state, so that your body can start to recover and repair from all the stress that we start to put on it physically, hormonally, and emotionally. Let your brain and your body clean themselves up and get back to feeling a little bit better. Patrick here from Complete Health. This was your daily dose of complete health, and I'll speak to you guys again very soon. Take care for now.